Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Seal of Approval. Joining me this week, as always, is Scrump. How are you today, sir?
Oh, I'm really full. I just ate a whole roast dinner. It was really good, but now I'm really full. That's how I am today.
Fair enough. And I got two returning guests this week. First of all, Sophia Norwitz. How are you?
I am doing quite well. How are you?
I think I'm about to come down with a full-blown cold. So
everyone's going to think you have COVID now.
Yeah, I know. It's
you can't.
Oh no!
You can't just get sick in today's day and age. Like, you have the sniffles, you have COVID, so you're doomed.
I think it's frustrating because I've got to sort out so much stuff because I'm moving in like the next 2 weeks or so. So I've got I've got to buy all sorts of stuff from shops, and I've actually got to like interact with the real world.
You'll have to quarantine inside a moving box.
I know. I think I'm pretty sure that I had COVID at the start of the year, like, because I was really, really ill back at like the end of February, beginning of March. So like, I'm going with the idea that I have the I've had the things, the things that stop you from getting the thing, and so I'm healthy apart from being ill. Antibodies, that's it. Like, I mean, I apologize. I apologize in advance if I sound a little bit spaced out or a bit tired in this episode. It's because I'm getting the excuses out there early.
Even in my roast dinner coma, I can still remember what antibodies are. So you must be really sick. We must help the rose. Send seals.
Send seals.
Seals will set us free.
And also joining us this evening is Omegon. How are you, sir?
I like toast.
Yeah, toast.
When are you going to Scrump? When are you going to start auditioning for a replacement for Rose? The Corona's going to get her.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
It's now too soon. We could do it now.
There's no replacing Rose. How could you? We'd have to make a difference.
You could try and get Dev.
It's fine. You could call him Rose 2.0. It's totally different.
Dev can't make his microphone work with anything. He also can't make Minecraft work either. So
Minecraft sucks.
How dare you? Minecraft is a precious thing.
I've got a feeling that my internet might be starting to get a little bit funny because I lost a little bit of connection there. So I'm hoping it stays true.
Strong. Today's just not your day, is it?
It's really not.
Like this, your internet's going down.
This week has not really been my week at all.
You mean a lot of internet providers with your bitrate?
But I think we do need some seals. I think it's important that we have some seals. So therefore, bring on the seals of news. There they are. I mean, yesterday was National Seal Day in the UK and Ireland, which is an important festival where we celebrate our pinniped pals. And so, they had a bit too much to drink last night. But they've still got the news. And so we've got four different stories. So we've got the Democrats in general, protests, which is a very common topic on this show.
Well, they're still happening.
Yeah. BBC and Zoe Quinn. So, Sophia, why don't you start us off? Pick a seal.
Let's go with the one I've been focusing on all week. So we will go with the Zoe Quinn seal.
So So, well, it's kind of almost like a blast from the past, almost. Like all the kind of skeptic community basically started because of her.
Zoe Quinn made Monday Matt, and Monday Matt undid Monday Matt.
It's quite the anniversary, so it's pretty timely.
Right, should we celebrate?
But Monday Matt also made Jabba the Hutt possible, which is all worth it in the end.
Jabba the Hutt is unironically good.
Like, I agree with you.
I genuinely listened to Steam Cleaner. Yeah, the one with sort of.
I'm not going to repeat any lyrics, but yeah.
Okay, I think we should all celebrate the fact that 5th anniversary is traditionally we give each other wood. That sounds fantastic.
It's the 6th anniversary, my dude.
No, I'm going by US. We're ignoring. I want to use the wood jokes.
What do you mean you're going by US? US isn't a different years. It's been 6 years.
No. Traditional US. It says wood. I'm looking at it on Google here. It totally says that.
Yeah, but it's not 5 years.
But it's 6 years.
Oh, we're at 6 now. Jeez, I thought it was 20. Yeah. Oh, my mistake. I'm sorry. In that case, then we can go UK and it is wood. It's fine.
If you add in 2020 time, it's like 10 years.
Yeah, it's like been a decade. 2012 was 30 years ago, guys. Don't you feel old now?
Oh, God damn it. So Sophia, what is it that Zoe Quinn hasn't done?
So this week was, as you can see on the screen, because that's my article, it's her double anniversary. It's been exactly 2 years since she's updated Kickstarter backers to a game she never delivered on. And so to people who don't know, in 2016, in October that year, she pitched a Kickstarter called Kickstarted in the Butt. Chuck Tingle digital adventure. It was a Chuck Tingle, the really shitty erotic Amazon.
Remember Chuck Tingle? That one funny to add.
And it was
I'm gonna quickly, whilst you talk, I'm gonna quickly Google Chuck Tingle.
All right, it was gonna be a FMV game based off his books, and he does books like "Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt," like they're really stupid erotic novels.
Oh God, yeah. So there's "Pounded in the Butt" by the handsome sentient manifestation of my Twitch stream.
Yep.
Space Raptor Butt Invasion.
And so the game at the time of the pitch of the Kickstarter was going to be delivered in February of 2017. So just mere months after the Kickstarter. Obviously, we wouldn't be talking about it if she hit that date. She never hit February. She never hit the next year or the year later. And so in August 30th, 2018, she updated Kickstarter backers finally. And she told them she didn't have money to finish the game while vacationing in Japan. And in the lead up to that update telling people she didn't have money, she had been backing other people's Kickstarters. So she clearly has money. And in the 2 years since, she hasn't updated backers ever again. And if you look at the Kickstarter, people who backed the project want updates, but Zoe Quinn just ignores them. So she got $85K. We don't know what happened to that money. She never delivered a product. She just got $85K.
Well, yes. Do you remember the developer updates they did give with those videos of that horrendously hung unlit green screen?
Yeah.
And the thing is, the funniest thing about this was when Chuck Tingle basically denied any knowledge of it.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Oh, come on, guys! Just because it has my name on it doesn't mean I was involved." Because people got at him, like her fan base turned against her and started going after Chuck Tingle.
He was paid $1,000. He got $1,000. According to based off what he told me, I messaged him a year ago when I was working on my first iteration of the story when I was still at Niche Gamer. And if I recall correctly, he got like $1,000 or something. So that's still $84K unaccounted for. I've spoken to people who worked on the game, and I know she did pay some staff on time. So some of that money can be accounted for, but there is still a huge chunk of change that we don't know what happened because no product got delivered and no one holds her to account. And so like all these media sites that boosted it, like Kotaku, like for example, for Kotaku UK, Laura Kate Dale is the one who boosted the Kickstarter to the audience. Laura Dale is a friend of Zoe Quinn, and Zoe Quinn is in Laura K. Dale's upcoming book. And so there's just like this whole thing of incestuous game journalism, friends helping out friends. And then when like
it's still happening, and 6 years later, we still get it.
And so
that book for Laura Kate Dale, is that the one where it's like writing about various asses or something?
It's about things I learned from Mario's butt, and it's just it's a book about video game asses.
Laura Kate Dale is such a mess.
Yeah, and to people watching, if you go to my channel, I have a video about Laura K. Dale. You should watch it because I kind of go through a history of lies, so some shameless self-promotion. But she is a whole other tale.
Yeah, the Laura Kate Dale is she faked a kidnapping?
Faked a kidnapping.
Or made up a kidnapping at one point.
Yep. She lied about the comedian on stage harassing her, which never happened.
And like that was my first kind of interaction with her, because at the time when that happened, I was working for Gay Star News, and so I actually wrote a story on it, and it was based on basically what she was saying through NeoGAF, I believe, because there was a lot of discussion about it on NeoGAF at the time. And she started flipping out as soon as I was trying to reach out to her to get a quote, to try and find out a little bit more about what was going on, about why are people trying to ask questions about this. And I thought, well, it's my job to report on news. You're accusing someone, a company representative, of being transphobic, dragging you on stage and being transphobic. That is a news story.
She specifically said on stage that the comedian called her he, it, and thing.
Yeah.
And that eventually all got retracted. He never called her he, it, or thing. But so she made that all up. But yet, Kotaku.
But Microsoft still apologized. There was still a statement put out by Microsoft apologizing for it.
And this was
the whole thing got
and Laura Dale then failed upwards.
Yeah, it became a case of, it's about highlighting this, highlighting an issue, or raising awareness, or starting a conversation. It was one of those pieces of, we lied about everything, but we're going to pretend we're still right.
And I mean, when she faked her, we've gone so off topic from Zoe Quinn, but when Laura Dale faked her kidnapping, people were like, go to the police. If you almost got kidnapped by this Uber driver, there's a kidnapper out and about that he should be arrested. And Laura Dale was like, no, I'm going into surgery. I don't want to deal with the police. And so she just shoved it all under the rug, just like, no, because she knew if she went to the police, that would be breaking the law because she'd be lying.
Yeah,
reporting a false crime.
She wants to just be able to come out with really alarmist statements about things that have gone on in her life, but she doesn't want anyone to dig into it. And so when you start asking questions, or when you start kind of trying to advise her on it, she becomes very, very defensive and is like, why are people asking me about this? It's like, well, it's because you're putting out, these things that you're saying are horrible. So we want to make sure that you're okay.
Well, getting back on track to Zoe Quinn stuff, it's very much one of her moves as well.
Awkward silence, but sorry,
I was waiting for someone to say something. So,
as per the Zoe Quinn thing, because of how incestuous the media is, there's this blatant thing of hey, there's a misappropriation of funds. She's vacationing in Japan as she tells people she doesn't have money. And no one in the media holds her to account. And so that was one aspect of what I wrote about. But so there was 2 anniversaries this week. August 30th, 2018 was the I don't have money thing. Exactly a year ago, on August 26th, she threw the allegations against Alec Kalakwa online, saying that he abused her about a decade ago. And there's discrepancies within her story. If you browse her Twitter history and the conversations she's had, there's major discrepancies in what she alleges happened and the public reaction, the public conversations she's having with this guy. But the media, because in the era of Believe Women, they started slamming Alec right away. Even his coworkers separated him from his game studio. He never got to tell his side, and he was already canceled within days. And so he took his own life. Zoe Quinn threw near decade-old allegations online that are quite flimsy once you start investigating it, and he killed himself. And and he killed himself on August 31st. So on August 30th is the 2-year anniversary. August 30th is the 2-year anniversary of that shady Kickstarter. August 31st is a year since a guy killed himself because of her allegations she threw online.
Well, it also, a lot of that coincided with quite close to when she announced that basically the project was cancelled because no money, like you said.
Yep.
It basically was a cover. I think it can be seen in that context as a cover. She basically caused the guy to commit suicide to cover up for her own scam. It's pretty evil.
Yeah. Before he killed himself, she had tweets suggesting like, "Hey, I'm dealing with all this stuff. I can't do the game." Was basically like, and conveniently, her allegations were also on the 5-year anniversary of Gamergate. And a lot of people at the time were like, hey, this feels like you're just trying to get back into the media spotlight. And the whole thing is just pretty effy. I don't know if you want people swearing on your channel.
Oh, no. You can swear. It doesn't matter. This video is going to be... this video is going to be demonetized no matter what.
Okay, cool. I will do my best to make sure that happens.
Yeah, I hate it when content creators try and move around swearing and censor things on screen, and I don't know. It makes YouTube kind of a ballsless place.
Yeah,
it makes it feel a lot less kind of organic, and like so long as you're not dropping the N-bomb scrump,
which I have done on basically every stream by accident. That's about where the standard is, so don't worry about swearing.
What I found kind of weird with the likes of Zoe Quinn, I think you mentioned it with Zoe Quinn and Laura Kate Dale, they're good buddies. Yeah. You seem to have this like weird clique of these very specific people. Yeah, like kind of the Jimquisition being one of them.
Yep.
You mean they?
Oh God! Oh my God! Don't get me started on that.
How could you possibly refer to the Jimquisition as a man? Let's just bring up a picture of them, just so everyone kind of knows.
Yeah, let's get a picture of they/them up.
Yes, let me just.
People who don't know came out as non-binary a couple weeks ago. The easiest thing to come out, the easiest thing to come out as, where you get marginalized status and you have to do nothing. There is no transition. You just say you just fall under the trans umbrella because you say you're non-binary. I will save that rant.
It's absolutely no surprise that this is the new non-binary on the scene. Like, of course, like when you're someone like Jim, who's like hangs around with people like Laura Kate Dale, who does give off very weird vibes, I must add. Like back when she first pushed that story about the what's it called, the guy on the stage of the Xbox One presentation, like she was wearing like a very fluorescent rainbow wig at the time, like someone who isn't really putting in a lot of effort to try and look like a woman. And it was kind of something that rubbed me a little bit of the wrong way when I was looking into that story. Like she puts no effort in and just looked like one of these kind of queer gender explosions. And it's not a surprise at all that someone like Jim Sterling would eventually just so happen, when he's surrounded by all of these people with all sorts of magical genders and pronouns, he wants to get in on it as well.
Is Jim cosplaying as a character from Saints Row? Because that thing over his shoulder looks like the Penetrator from the 4th game.
He is.
What's that, sorry?
He looks like he's cosplaying as a Saints Row character.
Well, he's got the dildo bat, so he kind of is.
The Penetrator, exactly, yes.
Yeah.
He is
weird He is alpha male. Alpha male right there.
Don't make them feel uncomfortable, guys.
Like his one kind of good take really is just on loot boxes. That's kind of his one.
It's a shame because he used to do good stuff. Yeah. But he's kind of fallen more and more. And I've spoken to people that have worked with him, and a lot of what he does is an act. And I'm not going to say a lot now, but I am going to have a video about him in about a month. I'm deep into a story about this. So
yes. I don't want to ruin your story, but I've heard from 2 different former Destructoid people that have worked with him about stuff that he's done in the past. He famously got caught reviewing Halo Wars whilst not playing it because people tracked his gamer tag and achievements. And I also heard a story that I couldn't get hard evidence of it, but it is quite. It does like events.
You and I've talked about this one. Go on.
It's the I don't know. There's one about GTA 4. I don't know if you heard about that one.
Which one's that?
That was GTA 5.
Oh, there's apparently Destructoid has sectored a lot of money back. This is way back in the GTA 4 days. They did an event sponsored by Rockstar, a Destructoid live event, and under the proviso that they didn't review the game. And apparently Jim Sterling just went along and unilaterally decided to review it anyway, partly souring their relationship with Rockstar for quite a while. So, and I heard that directly from an ex-Destructoid employee. So. Anyway,
the only kind of controversy that I can think of, like off the top of my head, was I think it was Breath of the Wild, when it was almost like he purposely gave it a lower score just so
I don't.
He then got a lot.
I'm going to defend him on. I'm going to defend him on that. Yeah. I think his views of that game was honest. Like, if you actually listen to when they were talking about it on like their podcasts and stuff, he did have a lot of issues with the game. And I cannot like. I hate this idea that, someone didn't give it a 9 like everyone else, therefore they purposely lowered it. So no, I will defend him in this case, that I do think he truly believes Zelda was the score he gave it.
It'd be one thing if that was kind of the way that he acted, but he seemed to love this kind of controversy where he got a lot of reporting done on him, and he gained a lot of attention. So that's why it always kind of sat as a bit.
I think it's a way to make fun of the controversy because. And again, I hate that I'm defending Jim Sterling because he's an awful, corrupt piece of shit. But when I'm in controversy, I try to spin it to have fun too. It's just kind of what you do so you don't go crazy. Yeah. And so I guess I do believe his views about that game were genuine in that instance because I did listen to the podcast. I heard the conversations and they did seem... His complaints seemed valid. And personally, they kind of matched some of my own views. I think Breath of the Wild was a little overrated. And so I don't think he made that score just for the controversy. I think he just enjoyed the controversy once it happened.
Should we get back to Zoe Quinn?
Yes, let's get back to I understand where you're coming from. Let's get back to Zoe Quinn.
She's a terrible person. She killed somebody.
All right.
Pretty
Any more
thoughts
on Zoe Quinn there? Anyone else? Because I'm all out of Zoe Quinn gas, I gotta say. It's kind of a self-contained story there.
If you want to know more, there's the article on screen. I also on my YouTube channel, I made a video where I went more in depth on a couple things. So check out my YouTube channel and just watch my video. More self-promotion. Yay.
And with that, we get back to our good friends, the Seals of News. But first, just to read out a few super chats. Bridget with the $4.99 with a little sticker of a fox putting his thumbs up saying, "Good job. Thank you." It's a good fox. And the Talmanian with the £5. What a shield-tastic stream. Looking forward to the Twitch streams. Yeah, I am going to get around to properly doing Twitch streams soon. I've been trying to get people to play Fall Guys.
Fall Guys is great. I will chill Fall Guys, yes.
Yeah, I know someone I think it was after the last stream, someone did join the Discord, and I think she actually did go out and purchase Fall Guys just for it. So now I actually have to properly 100% commit because people are starting to put money down on this. Plus, Fall Guys is awesome. I haven't been. It's only in the last few months, really, since kind of leaving London that I've got into gaming again. And Fall Guys is one I've been playing a lot. Sea of Thieves as well. And I've basically just been getting into PC gaming, which is I've never been a PC gamer. I've always been a Nintendo girl at heart, and it's a little bit kind of weird, but at the same time, it's kind of cool. So with that, Omegon, would you like to pick a seal?
Sure, yeah. Let's go with my favoritist of favorite places, things, objects, the BBC. Sorry about the creaky chair.
That's all right. So why do you think that the BBC is has been brought to us by the Seals this week?
I would assume because of a video I did on them. I'm just going to hang on. Public service announcement: defund the BBC.
Wow, you had that all planned and lined up. I like that.
Yeah. I got set up for Limber. I've been using it in videos.
I approve. But yeah, so
it could be because of the Rightwing Comedy comments. They were trending on Twitter for ages about this. People were saying they want to because they got a new. Tim Davie is the new head. He's meant to do a speech tomorrow, and it's believed he wants to try and remove the claimed bias. So you've got on the screen, this.
Yes.
To be honest, though, we're not because we have a Tory government. This does come across as must protect Tories from criticism. To be fair, they are a running joke. They really are. I watched PMQs earlier. Boris is a joke, and Trump. Come on, we can crack jokes about this. And Brexit is dead. Come on, move on. Right. The problem is, none of the left-wing comedians have anything else to talk about at the moment.
That's their whole material. The problem is, and I know the BBC don't exactly do much in terms of viewing figures, but the rumor has been for many, many years. I know it happened when BBC Three died, but nobody's watching this shit. Like nobody. Like these are dead shows with dead audiences. They are completely out of touch with the British public.
The problem, the most well-known shows on there that comedy would be Have I Got News for You, which has two geriatrics and a rotating random host, and Mock the Week, which I'll be honest, I watched it from the start, and it was very obscene with Frankie because Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah. Sorry, Jesus fecking Christ. It got over the years though when he left, they got in random guests, and every so often they'd bring in the single most awkward people you could imagine who would then say the things nobody wanted to make jokes about. And it was just cringe.
Like, Mock the Week was only really good when Frankie Boyle was on it. As soon as he left, the show really went down.
On YouTube, there are best bits for Mock the Week called Too Hot for TV. They stopped making them when Frankie left.
And now Frankie is a
millionaire socialist, yes.
Yes. Have I got news for you as the one which upsets me more than any, because that used to be brilliant. Like that used to be such an excellent kind of swiping satire. That was brilliant back in the day.
I think they had a really good target on Blair. They had a good target on Major. They had the best moment. I think the funniest show they ever did was when Angus Deaton went on after the prostitute thing.
Oh yeah, see, it's like
my fucking god, they ruined him. They just ruined him. That was funny though. It's like Jimmy Carr on Jimmy Carr when he got done for his taxes on a 8 out of 10 cats you will not find anywhere, but I have a hard copy of it because it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, but this was all 15 years ago. Most of
it was a while. It was a while.
20 years.
That show's been going for almost as long as I've been alive. That's why it's no longer funny, because the people who do it, they're not trying to be funny anymore.
Well, the thing is, there was also another angle to this. Did you see the story from The Independent? I've got it up somewhere. They basically the media tried to spin it that the BBC can't find right-wing comedians because right-wing comedians aren't funny.
That was Owen Jones. That was like a comment Owen Jones made as well.
No, the media run with it.
Yeah, because he also wrote. That's true. There is some truth to that if you're going to go with the niche that the comedian is only known for being right-wing. Yeah, and people had this stereotype that those, and I don't know if this is true or not, but those that are right-wing comedians only talk about homophobia or are homophobic, racist, and other blah, blah, blah. And what they do is they then pull out comedians from the 80s and 90s like Roy Chubby Brown and Jim Davidson. And I'm like, yes, they're conservatives, but fuck me, you can't compare them to more current conservative comedians because they're nothing alike.
No, it's also the case that anyone who is anywhere politically incorrect will instantly be cancelled. And the BBC, I don't think, has the spine to defend any comedian who is not left of Mao.
They have to be impartial. That's the problem. And the stupid thing is, I think it was Owen Jones that said that it was because of market forces that we didn't see many right-wing comedians on the BBC. And I thought that's a stupid way of saying censorship, because the BBC is not on the market. It's not a market either. It is taxpayer funded.
That's the point of the BBC. That they're not beholden to the market. That's the whole reason they have. We make programming that wouldn't be made otherwise, and then they come up with the market forces excuse.
That's what he did, and I thought it was just stupid. Yeah. It's censorship. That's what it is by definition.
They should try and bring back world peace.
They also ignored a lot of the older comedians from like the 70s and the 60s. The big names that really made kind of the BBC a tentpole in this country for its comedy. People like Morecambe and Wise, like they were conservative. Like these, it's nothing to do. It's not even just so much to do with making right-wing jokes, but it's simply about what their own attitude is, kind of behind the scenes. Like one of my favorite comedians is Peter Kay, but I've honestly no idea what way he votes. And quite frankly, I would rather not.
It doesn't really matter, really. If you're funny, you're funny.
Exactly. And there are left-wing comedians who are pretty funny. Doug Stanhope, as an example, like he can be great, even if I disagree with his position.
I've seen Dara Breen a few times. He's quite funny live.
Yeah,
and he's abused me, so it's very funny.
One of the things I do love about Dara O'Brien when I've watched his live stuff is like he basically bases his entire show on people in the audience.
Yeah, he did that to me, the prick. He's a prick. What do you do? I'm unemployed. What did you do? Well, it's been a while. It's been a long time, mate. Great. What would you like to be? I don't know, a belly dancer? Entertain me. Prick. Motherfucker.
Like... But he has a talent like that's perfectly fine. But it's when
there's different types of comedy, isn't it? Some are anecdotal, some are insult, and then there's engaging with the audience comedians. They're very different. I like that.
And then there's people like Nish Kumar. Like, has anyone Nish Kumar's like Good Morning America?
He can be funny. He can be funny though.
Really?
There are some moments on like Mock the Week where he did make me laugh a little. But
his own show is
What did he say?
The show is different. I couldn't remember. It was so long ago. I just remember I have laughed at him.
It was that funny.
It was the hair. It's probably just the hair.
But like Nish Kumar is something like I've never really seen. I didn't really know anything about him. I know like he did. Was it like The Last Leg or is it? No, it's not The Last Leg. That's Channel 4. It's another one on the BBC, kind of a late night comedy show that he's been a part of. And like I never really watched that, but I started hearing about him when he did these kind of weird like kind of sets where he would tell people that like their parents and grandparents are racist for voting Brexit, or when he got like sandwiches thrown at him for
he got booed.
Yeah, he got booed.
Yeah, he got booed.
Do you think he did that on purpose? Like he knew the audience before he even went there. Surely he would have known he was going to get abused, and that would just serve him better because then he could then say, the racist did this to me when I because of
what he said. He came across extremely cringe, and he wasn't like. It's one of the instances where that didn't happen because I thought that was going to happen to him, and it didn't. He came off worse from that. And I'm not sure how. Well, I do know how because what he said was quite egregious. He was talking about, basically celebrating the deaths of old people because they voted for Brexit.
Oh, God. Do you think he was one of those that wanted another referendum because more older people had died so the younger could have outvoted them?
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
It's a referendum.
British politics has been a large series, ever since 2015, British politics has been a large series of delusional kind of runs by the Remain left, who have constantly said about the silent majority who want to remain, and the Remain vote is bigger now, and then they got absolutely fucking crushed in that election. They got historically destroyed. They got more destroyed than political parties have in this country.
The turnout was huge.
Hundreds of years. It was incredible what happened to both Labour and the Liberal Democrats. They both collapsed.
When people were trying to say we need another referendum, I used to get incredibly triggered because the deferendum, as you mentioned, it was the last thing my mother voted on, and she voted to leave. And I was like, "You fuckers, her vote still counts. Don't even try."
As it turned out, the Brexit vote only got stronger and stronger and stronger in the intervening years. Yeah. And the entire narrative was a lie. And I think the BBC does need to readjust its programming because most of the UK does not believe the things that the BBC is putting forward, and it's making people tune out. People actively hate the BBC and want it to stop existing.
I do. Do you want me to do another public service announcement for you? When one of my favorite things to watch when not feeling overly happy is I put on the 10-hour referendum night on the BBC as it happened, because it was it actually was fairly impartial, believe it or not, but also because of how defeated everyone got as it got closer, and it was like when Trump won. Over the night, people just got more depressed, and it was so funny to me, as obviously because I voted to leave, and people didn't like it. Right? Okay, cool. Get triggered, bitch.
I want to pot something that Sophia can probably interject on here, because she's unfortunately had to set out this very British discussion.
I'm a little out of my league here.
The same is true in the US, though, as we saw with the example I always bring out is Sam Hyde and World Peace on Adult Swim, because that show got gangbuster ratings. It was their highest rated show, and it was in a graveyard slot. They were broadcasting it at like 1 a.m. and it was still out competing everything, which really throws out the window market forces. But every time there is a quote unquote right-wing comedy show, the media goes fucking nuts. They go insane. No matter where it is, the US, UK, anywhere in the West, anytime there's a voice that's seen as...
There was that Tim Allen... There was some Tim Allen sitcom when it got renewed. It got canceled, and then it got renewed on a different channel, and people lost their shit because it was like a right-wing sitcom. Last Man Standing, I think it was called. And just having a sitcom, people got mad because it was right-leaning, but it had a huge audience.
Well, Ricky Gervais is seen as transphobic because he commented on the whole Jonathan Yaniv thing. Who else was there? There was Dave Chappelle, famously with Sticks and Stones.
That was a ridiculous thing because he was friends with her. Like, she was laughing at his jokes. And then when she tragically took her life, people started using her to blame Dave Chappelle, even though she had been publicly defending him. Like, they weaponized her. It's fucking gross.
Yeah,
it is gross.
I mean, weaponizing suicide is something which a lot of the kind of the trans lobby do on a regular basis. I mean, it's only in the last few days that we've seen mermaids do that again. This time with
mermaids.
With J.K. Rowling, mermaids being the trans charity. But it's supposed to be.
Is that? Oh, right. Okay.
Basically, they accused J.K. Rowling of being the cause of several attempted suicides for putting out her opinions.
That's ridiculous.
And it's the same
association. Nice, classy.
But it's the same. It was the same thing with Dave Chappelle. Like Sophia mentioned, they were friends. I remember doing a video on this last year. They were Dave Chappelle. I can't remember her name, sadly, but they were friends, and she was actually supportive of his set, which I do think that the Sticks and Stones thing was probably a little bit overrated, in my opinion. But I think a lot of it was because it felt so fresh compared to everything else that Netflix, all these other comedy specials that Netflix has been putting out.
I mean, it wasn't as good as Nanette, but no, I'm kidding.
You know what I mean? It was a lot. It just kind of felt like there was something a bit more to it, and he was saying things that people really wanted to hear. And so you even look at the success of something like South Park. South Park is, I think, Trey Parker and Matt Stone are actually now openly Republican.
Didn't they say it was a joke though?
I think that I thought at first I thought that was a joke, but apparently it wasn't.
That surprises me.
Yeah.
They're more libertarian in their beliefs, I think. But
I think it's just I've been watching a lot of South Park recently. But yeah, there is an audience for a lot of this stuff. But
big audience. Sticks and Stones was wildly successful. A lot of this stuff was wildly successful. But the thing is, a lot of networks have to back these people because there will be backlash because of the way that the left sees the culture war as basically they have to squeeze everyone out that doesn't adhere to the narrative. If one person breaks the narrative, it completely ruins it because their worldview's untenable and the facts are not on their side. So they have to shut everything out, or else it doesn't work. And I don't think the BBC has the spine to defend any kind of comedy. If you read this article, they're quoting some sort of anonymous insider who could be a fucking runner for all we know. and they're saying that, right-wing comedians just aren't funny enough. I think the problem is they're just not funny to them. They'd get offended.
Yeah.
And these people are, Guardian reading, kind of failed wannabe Oxbridge rich kids. That's who the BBC is still populated by. It's populated by upper middle class failures. And it still is. It's where the rich people in this country put their embarrassing sons and daughters out to pasture. And it's the same with the British press as well. It's become a dumping ground for people who got middling thirds at Oxbridge. It's disgraceful, is what it is. And the fact that they think that they can't find funny non-left-wing comedians just shows what bubble they live in. It's just it's another nail in the coffin of the BBC, as far as I'm concerned, that their attitude is so arrogant that they would come out and say this.
But this is why I think the BBC at this point is almost beyond reform. I don't even believe that they will be doing this big shake-up. I have no confidence in them doing it. And I think this is simply lip service because they're worried about what the government could potentially do to them.
The thing is, if you axe the BBC, everyone in the UK who pays a license fee is better off overnight.
Yes, instantly. I mean, we've got Netflix, we've got Amazon, we've got Disney Plus, we've got all other options nowadays to where we get our entertainment from. We have YouTube, which is where a lot of us get our news. And quite frankly, I'm much happier getting news from people where if they have a political leaning, I at least know what that leaning is before I listen to them. Unlike these like kind of bigger media corporations that try and paint themselves as being quote unquote fair and balanced.
I would go one step further. The BBC is what old people leave on in the background to not feel alone. That is its primary purpose right now.
Right.
Most people under 35 don't watch the BBC at all. And most people under 35 don't really watch broadcast TV in general. It is a dead medium, and they are a dead state-funded part of it.
Yeah. I mean, I've only been watching bits of the BBC whilst I've been at my parents', and when I get when I move into my new place in the next few weeks, I'm not getting a TV license because I've no interest in watching broadcast TV anymore. Like, I'm perfectly happy just with YouTube, just with Disney, and like that does me. I don't need. Sorry.
So I haven't paid the TV license in 7 years. And they every month, without fail, they send me a threatening letter. Even though I have an exception that's up to date, even though I can prove that I don't have an aerial here, I have no means to receive broadcast TV. Yeah. I don't have a digital TV subscription. I don't have cable. I don't have satellite. I have no way of accessing their services. And they still, every month, without fail, send me a threatening letter.
Have they ever come round to your place?
Yes, they have.
Yeah,
and I gave the guy a fucking earful because I said, look, I filled in my exemption. My exemption lasts a year. What are you doing here? And he threatened to send around a detective van. And I told him if he didn't get off my doorstep, I'd kick him in the fucking face because I was very annoyed with him. I did. I said, you fine, you send a detective van around. And don't come on my fucking property, basically.
Did they actually? I've never seen one of these detective vans. Like, did he?
They're a myth, actually. What happened is they threatened to make them. They threatened to packet sniff and hack people's Wi-Fi, and the government basically told them no. It will basically just end the BBC overnight if these things start appearing in people's streets. Yeah, they literally have spy vans that they threaten to send out. You're right. I've never seen them. I don't think they actually do use them because they are a massive violation of civil liberties.
Yes.
But no, the BBC never sent someone back after that, to be fair. But I still get my threatening letters every month, even though I have an up-to-date exemption, which you are well within your rights to do. You can opt out the license fee. Oh, sorry.
That's fine. So does anyone have anything they'd like to add on the BBC or Rightwing Comedy before we move on?
No, I say we move on.
Let's move.
I'm out of my league with the BBC. So I'm a filthy American.
So let's get back to our seals of news and time for some more super chats. Canadian Heastan. I don't know whether I'm probably pronouncing that really wrong. With the $20 Canadian dollars. Thank you so much. Hi, Ingladive with the £5. The BBC has quite the kill list. Have I got news for you? Mock the Week, Doctor Who, Poldark, Horrible Histories, MASH Report, This Week, Panorama, the list goes on. I mean, like, some of those shows used to be good. Like, I haven't watched Horrible Histories, but I've heard that was a good show at one point. But
I've also heard that it went to shit, and basically kind of all this is stuff that they had that was golden that they could have sold on, but they have just ruined it.
I mean, like Doctor Who, which triggers the shit out of me.
It's so awful what they did. Look at how they massacred my boy.
And Miles Kinslow with the $5. Hey guys, no wonder it's called the BBC. They fucked everyone over every chance they get. Thanks for that. So Scrump, do you want to pick a seal?
I think there's two seals here we'll end up talking about simultaneously, to be honest.
No, actually, the protests aren't ones in America.
Oh, okay. You know what? I think I know what you're referring to now. So yeah, I will go with the protest because I've been trying to inform people about this all week. Because I know at least one aspect of what you want to talk about here are the anti-lockdown protests, one of which was extremely well attended, and in Berlin there may have been as many as 2 million people protesting around Germany. They managed to get up to the kind of the gate. Well, they managed to get it into the Reichstag partially. The media hyped it up as them storming the Reichstag, but really the police weren't really there. They didn't even damage it really. I think like one window got like cracked or something. They symbolically kind of stood on the steps for a while, but it was amazing to see. There was thousands of people there waving the flag of Imperial Germany. This is some hardcore shit happening in Germany right now. They are so sick of the lockdown, and this is a mass movement.
Well, I wasn't actually. I will be completely honest. I didn't know that this had gone on. Like, this wasn't
really?
Actually, Oh, God damn it. I kicked over a camera. No, I did not know that this was happening. This was not like, I hadn't heard anything about this.
I've been following the events in Germany quite closely because I think, along with France, there may be a partial denotice in place for the, I guess, the equivalent of the German Yellow Vest protests. Because there have been mass protests almost continuously now in Germany against lockdown. They are not. The German people are not happy about it. They are not happy about Merkel. They are not happy about the restrictions in place, and they are making it themselves known very vocally. There is a large movement in Germany right now that basically wants to return to how things were, kind of pre-Weimar, kind of Kaiser era stuff. There's a great resurgence of kind of pre-First World War German style nationalism. It's been incredibly interesting to see.
Like, they're kind of like the whole anti-lockdown kind of protest thing has kind of exploded over the last couple of days. Like, there's someone who was trying to, as I heard about it just before we went live, actually, of this lady in Victoria in Australia who tried to arrange a protest, like an anti-lockdown protest, and she was actually arrested due to a Facebook post.
Oh, that video's fucked.
I would play it if I knew how to play sound through StreamYard, but it's what happens in this video is police are in her property and they are arresting her for the phrases what they use is like, she was trying to kind of like, it begins with an I. Again, I'm ill, so this is why my words are slipping. But she all she did was just post something on Facebook. The way in which she wanted to arrange this protest was everything to be social distanced, everyone to be wearing masks, so that they wouldn't really be breaking any kind of lockdown rules. But of course, that wasn't good enough. And the officer, whilst he's reading her rights, bearing in mind she's actually pregnant as well, and she was basically almost on her way to go get a scan for the baby, and he's so calm when he's like he's reading it as though like he's a mate, and like I found that really quite disturbing. Like, he's doing it almost with like a smile on his face, that he's like arresting this pregnant lady just for posting about a protest. And again, like, these are the protests that are being locked. Really, people are putting their foot down on. And one of the reasons why protest was on here, one of the two stories that I really wanted to talk about involves Jeremy Corbyn's brother. Piers Corbyn.
I love Piers.
So there was an anti-lockdown protest in London over the weekend. A lot of people turned up to it. But, bearing in mind, we've had plenty of Extinction Rebellion and Black Lives Matter protests over the last year. It's not numbers that are huge and that are, they're not hugely excessive. But despite all the other protests that we've seen over the summer, this is the one where a actual £10,000 fine was slapped on someone. Now, I find that fascinating because I have seen, before I moved out of London, I saw a good few protests in the weeks, after this new legislation was passed, which meant that the people could get fined for arranging protests. One of the ones that I went to, for example, was a trans rights protest in Parliament Square, where they were talking about how, the government had plans to bring in bathroom laws, which, surprise, surprise, was never the government's plan in the first place. This was just people fear-mongering. But nobody got fined for arranging that. Nobody got fined for any of their Black Lives Matter marches. Nope. I came across one or two Black Lives Matter protests in London, including one in Peckham. Nobody was fined for any of those. All of these protests that were for effectively right-on causes, as people on the left might say, none of them have got into trouble. But it's the anti-lockdown protest, which is the first one to get fined. So what are people's thoughts on that?
We're seeing that same level of hypocrisy in the United States as well. So I'm going to provide my answer through an American lens because, again, I'm a filthy American. Yes. So you have the media celebrating thousands of people congregating for the Black Lives Matter protests or the March on Washington. And yet anytime there's anything that they disagree with, they're like, oh, the COVID-19, look, there's this risk. You're going to kill us all. One example is Joy Reid from MSNBC just last week was tweeting about how she was disappointed she couldn't make it to the March on Washington, and she's showing a picture of it. And there's thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people.
Yeah,
she's wishing she could be part of that march. And then the next day, or 2 days later, it was 1 or 2 days, there was a Trump rally, and she starts fear-mongering about COVID-19, about how all these people are going to be super carriers and they're going to spread the virus everywhere because these Trump supporters are having an outdoors rally. And it's you can't have this hypocrisy. If the virus is bad, if you believe it's as bad, you can't celebrate one protest and say, I wish I was there, but then shut down another rally. And it's that hypocrisy that we're seeing on a wide level within the media, which is why a lot of people aren't taking the virus as serious as they used to. When the virus was first happening, everyone was all right, we understand. We have to shut down. It sucks. But most people were accepting it. It was this new virus. We understood. But from right away, the media has been so hypocritical about it. I mean, you even have the thing with Chris Cuomo from CNN, where he got the virus allegedly, and he was staying in his basement. But then there's a police report while he was supposedly hiding in his basement where he had been outside and he got in a fight with a neighbor in the Hamptons. CNN's portraying as, he's been in his basement for weeks. There was another guy from CBS who supposedly had the virus, and then pictures emerged of him outside hanging out with people. And so there's this double standard we're seeing in this media, and this hypocrisy, especially with, as I already said, with the protests. And it's insane. And so to get back to what you're talking about, it's the same thing. Anything that is deemed any bit right-leaning, they shut down. It's you're going to spread the virus. This is bad. You can't do that. But these left-wing things like Extinction Rebellion or BLM or whatever, they're not getting fined. They're not being shut down. They're being celebrated.
Yeah.
And it's insane. And as that continues to happen, that's going to create more people that oppose the lockdown stuff. And so they're going to create more people that want to go to lockdown protests.
And of course, we saw more Extinction Rebellion stuff in London over the last day or so.
Yep.
People have been arrested, but as far as we're aware, no one's been given a fine that matches what Piers Corbyn received.
They're very protective. They're very protective of the lockdown, and I don't know why the British government are doing this. I can't ascribe motives to the Conservative government, but what's happening is very clear. In that the narrative has been destroyed now because we have the figures on deaths. I've heard people refer to it as a case-demic, which I think is a really good way of putting it. That they've moved now from deaths because deaths are basically non-existent at the moment, and they've moved on to cases. They've massively widened testing. The testing will recognize most kinds of COVID viruses, not just COVID-19, by the way. The tests are not fully reliable. But they've moved on to cases now, and they're using case figures rather than death figures and hospitalizations to justify these local lockdowns, where we've now seen that the virus it's trending, even by the government's own figures, it's trending at a maximum of about 0.7% death rate, which is far, far, far lower than the 4% we were told was happening in Italy when we were told to lock down. It's less than half as deadly as SARS was, and it's less than half as deadly as swine flu was. Yet those things didn't trigger a lockdown on this scale. The narrative has been widely debunked, and yet the only form of protest the state seems to be kind of clamping down on is the lockdown protests. And a lot of people who scream conspiracy theories, but there's a lot more going on here than the virus. I don't know if it's a trial run for authoritarian measures. I don't know if it's just the fact that left-wing political organizations hold so much power in the media.
Look at it this way. And this is getting a little tinfoil hattian, but these protests that are happening in most Western nations, and I'm going to come to the US for this one. We're seeing widespread looting. We're seeing widespread arson. We're starting to see violence. All this stuff we're seeing is going to lead to another crackdown. We will lose rights because of what is happening. Similar to 9/11. When bad things happen, the government and people in control find more ways to lock us down. With 9/11, we got the Patriot Act. We lost more liberties. We lost more rights. We got the widespread spying, the NSA, PRISM, all of it. What we're seeing now is, you notice all the elite, all the governments, all this stuff are supporting these widespread destructive protests. What's going to happen? We're going to lose rights. Because anytime something is bad happens, people in power find ways to take advantage so that they can be more powerful and we can be less so. And so this stuff is going to lead to us. I'm not going to speculate on what rights we're going to lose, but we will lose something through all of this. And so letting this stuff happen benefits the people in power, as bad things have always benefited people in power.
We're now also seeing that China's overreaction to the virus may have been part of its strategy in maintaining control on its domestic population, because they brought in a lot of measures now that they've wanted to bring in for years. People have to have special driver's licenses. Certain people can only drive on certain days and within certain radiuses of their houses, which is now permanent. And that's been something that a lot of the virus people they're trying to get people used to only traveling a small radius around their houses.
Consider how like right away they started making contact tracing apps where like we would be traced on our phones. Whenever this weird stuff happens, and like the virus I believe is fully real, but again, when bad things happen, people take advantage. And so this became everything we're seeing this year allowed for a lot of opportunistic things to occur. The virus happened, people in power get opportunistic. I mean, you even see it with like how the billionaires are getting massively more wealthy because, hey, something happened, we can take advantage of this. The protests, people in power, we can take advantage of this. And that's what we're seeing. And you have to look at you see the signs of how we're losing rights, how we're being funneled in, how we're being stay inside, get this app that's going to track you wherever you go and track who you interact with. That is incredibly unsettling, the contact tracing stuff. And luckily, it's kind of been shut down in some places because there's been some resistance. But the fact that almost right away they were starting to try to push that through with forced updates on iPhones and Android.
Yeah.
It's been a big, well, whether deliberate or not, the upshot of both the riots and COVID in combination has been to utterly destroy all forms of small business. Small businesses in the UK and the US basically don't exist anymore. Yep. They have, most of them are either on government life support or they've gone out of business, and they will not survive a second. If they do the whole second wave winter lockdown thing, that's all of them gone. All of them.
Yeah.
Small businesses cannot survive that. And it seems to be a way of centralizing power. It just is. And I can't see this with the willful ignorance of the scientific data we're seeing now, of how low the death rates are, especially for anyone who's below 50. This thing basically has no chance of killing you if you're below 50. It is as deadly as a flu virus. It is exactly the same. It's just the flu if you're under 50. And you don't have underlying health conditions, which is the same for the flu, by the way. The flu kills a lot of people with underlying health conditions every year because they have underlying health conditions and they can't survive most kinds of virus. But the big thing, and a lot of people are talking about it, and we'll see it when it happens, is that they're going to make the vaccine mandatory. And they're going to attach the vaccine to rights. If you want to go outside, you have to have the vaccine. And a lot of countries are going to try and have RFID chips, I think. They're going to try and have vaccination checks. And they're not going to say it's mandatory, but they're going to relate it to state benefits. Oh, and by the way, you can't go to work, so you have to be on state benefits because your country's locked down. It's too obvious at this point what's going on that I can't help but speak out about it, that a lot of people get extremely offended when you question the narrative of this, but this is a play for control because things have not been going the way that the global elites want them to go. They have not been. Brexit went through, Trump got elected, and Trump may get elected again. We'll see what happens. But the combination of the coronavirus hysteria and the riots is very much a play. You see the lockstep narrative, and at every turn they try and suppress information that doesn't agree with it. But I don't know. It's kind of a white pill that Germany has, and France as well. France has been reporting that it's had no protests. That is bullshit. They basically are still reporting on the yellow vest. That's still going on. Police are quitting in mass numbers in both France and the US. A lot of stuff you are just simply not being told. So there's a lot of protest stuff that you won't be told about. And the big one, I know you didn't know about it, Rose, as well, but the big one that people weren't told about was Germany. They only admitted it a day after it happened.
Like that one, like that kind of action is something I'm honestly surprised that I genuinely did not know about. I did not see anything about it on my Twitter feed. I didn't see anything about it in any of the websites that I look at. Absolutely nothing at all. I think we are actually starting to kind of cross over to the last topic. So before we move on to that, does anyone have anything that they would like to add on? Maybe even on Extinction Rebellion, or anything. No,
I'm ready to shit on some Democrats.
Right. Okay. So let's bring out our good friends one more time. There they are. These plump seals of goodness. Yes. Now I've got some. I have got some more super chats to read before we go into the main event. I always like to think that, like with the seals of news, there is always one story which is the main event of the stream, and that in this instance is without a shadow of a doubt the Democrats. And I've just put Democrats on there because that's it. But first of all, I want to read out some super chats. So Vince Ego with the £10. The TV licensing people are a nuisance. No other company sends threatening letters for not using their services. You shouldn't even have to fill out an exemption. I agree. I don't like the idea that you have to tell them that you don't want to buy their product. There is something really quite disturbing about that. I completely agree. So Zurindu, I think I might pronounce that right. I just like to say Zurindu with the $5 New Zealand dollars. We had the March for Freedom anti-lockdown protests in major cities here in New Zealand, and the media smeared them as COVID deniers, dirty smear merchants.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. they're saying anyone who protests about the mass suspension of civil liberties, like people going into people's houses for Facebook posts and arresting them, like people being in Australia, it's really bad. There's people being like slammed to the floor, slammed against walls by police for not wearing masks.
Yes,
it's insane.
Yeah, I think, and you just even see this with the phrase "COVIDiot." I think like that's something which a lot of people have tried to really push into like the mainstream lexicon. I mean, you saw Piers Morgan using it a lot. You've seen a lot of the kind of comedians that would go on the BBC like to use the phrase "COVIDiot" a lot as well. And it is simply people who question about the lockdown and about whether it's actually been worth it or whether there is something else at play. I find it really, really worrying how many people just take the lockdown and everything that's being told to them at face value, as though there is nothing else that could potentially be going on here, or whether they've even made the right decision in the first place. The only mainstream kind of opposition I see about lockdown is that we should have locked down harder and sooner, which I think is just even stupider.
There is a problem though. In that, if you speak a dissenting opinion that goes against, for example, the WHO, people who lied, and then you will be like David Icke was at that protest. He was yeeted off this platform. Why? Because even though he's amusing, I'll give him that. Because he said certain things about coronavirus, it was deemed worthy of a removal, and so there aren't going to be many voices that will speak against it. So people instead can only just say, "Okay, there are some COVIDiots over there, cool."
Yeah, and it's the same thing with YouTube because there are like it's part of like the new rules in it. Like when you're talking, yes, in the terms of service. If what you're saying goes against what the WHO says.
Even though they lied.
Even though they lied, even though they have changed their opinions on things on multiple occasions, and the fact that they lied for China's benefit. Like they've lied to the world for China's benefit on multiple occasions. But questioning them on it is grounds to be yeeted on YouTube. And I think it's the same on Facebook. And I think it's the same on Twitter.
It's more scary because even if, let's say the virus was as bad as we initially thought. Let's say there was a virus that was going through and killing off a huge chunk of the population. Just for hypothetical, there's a massive virus, tons of people are dying. Even if that was happening, people should be free to say what they think. And what's happening that startles me the most is regardless of what is really going on with the virus, we're creating an environment with social media, which has a lot of control. Like you go against their terms of service, you get kicked off. You don't have many places to go, especially with lockdowns or social distancing. You lose an ability to communicate with people.
Yes.
And so an environment is being created where stick to the official narrative or else. And whether one official narrative is 100% true, people should still be allowed to question it. And when we make it so you can't question this one, it's eventually going to snowball where, then you can't question this. You can't question that. Imagine if you weren't allowed to question the Iran-Contra situation or anything else. Or remember when the media lied about weapons of mass destruction to help get us into the Iraq war. What if it became, you can't question that narrative or we'll boot you. And so with this virus stuff, again, everything is always opportunistic.
Yeah.
And so this environment's being created where the elites, which own these social media sites and other things, it's creating an environment where the average person is going to be fearful of questioning stuff. We already started seeing it when certain people started getting deplatformed, and obviously they went with the most extreme people first. The Alex Joneses, the stuff like that. Yeah. But then eventually they've started slowly going after a few other people. And now it's, you can't question this narrative. And what's going to be the next narrative we can't question? And again, even if the narrative is 100% true, people should be allowed to question it. It should be people's rights to express their opinion, their thoughts. If they're wrong, it's up to educated people to be like, no, they're wrong. Here's the facts. Here's the evidence. But we're making it where you get yeeted off if you go against it. And that's scary because that opens the door to a future that is kind of dystopian. And I don't think people consider what we're seeing. And you're seeing this in the UK. on a different scale where it's gone to the point where you can't even say certain things online. I mean, people have been arrested for insulting people or expressing views on gender or other things. And we're starting to see in a lot of Western nations, if you say certain things, you get in trouble. And that should terrify everybody. And the left is helping usher this in. And that's why I am so opposed to that, what they're calling for. End rant, sorry.
But it says, to move on with the Democrat stuff, I think the first thing that really links in with the COVID stuff is what Nancy Pelosi did this week.
There's a few more super chats that I just need to go over before we get into that, but we will talk about fucking Pelosi. Amelia with the 4.99 reminds me of the BLM racism as a public health issue tweet that was in support of the mass riots / protesting despite the COVID lockdown. Yep. Adil Canidal. Sorry if I've mispronounced your name. £2, thank you. No question or statement. Much love to all. Thank you. Aw. Charity Rivers at the 4.99 in Liverpool. They smeared them as conspiracy nutters. The experts must think Miss Rona takes a holiday during BLM, but not anti-lockdowners. Pretty much. And Zarindu again with the $2 New Zealand. Worldwide 1776 when? Hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon, yes.
Hopefully boogaloo time. So so Scrunk mentioned Pelosi. So Pelosi is not the core focus of this rant, but this is kind of like
nice lead-in.
It is a good lead-in and a kind of a good example as to why I despise the Democrats. So, for those of you who might not know, Nancy Pelosi decided to get her hair done in a salon in San Francisco a few days ago. Now, a year ago, that would be a complete non-story. I mean, of course, a woman going to get her hair done, it's normal, it's natural, except salons have been ordered to close in San Francisco since March. To this day, they are still not allowed to open up to members of the public. However, Nancy Pelosi, because she is better than everybody else, all the other plebs, she can arrange to have an appointment in a salon. She can go in there without a face mask or without anything which us plebs will be expected to wear. And this was caught out by the owner of the salon. It was the owner of the salon wasn't the one who booked her in. It was she's there to kind of see a client who then told him about it, and this is kind of how this has come out. The Democrats have gone on the defensive about this because, of course, they would, basically saying that Nancy thinks that she didn't do anything wrong, that she wasn't aware she was doing anything wrong, and just went along with it for the sake of it. And these are the people who have been pushing lockdown the hardest. Like California has, of all the states in America, California is probably the most insane when it comes to their approach to lockdown. And look at the different way in which the elites are being treated to everyone else.
Well, it's proof they know that this isn't a threat. Pelosi knows the coronavirus isn't really a threat, even though she's 80. She's fucking 80 years old. But she knows that she has enough people around her, she has enough healthcare, that she'll be fine. She knows that this isn't true. And it is that they regard us as plebs, and this is their way of controlling us. That's all it is. It is a way of controlling the populace. And, instances like this prove it. She is the biggest leader for wearing masks and perpetuating lockdowns. And yet she is acutely aware that those rules don't apply to her in her head. And if she truly believed this was an existential threat to the US, she would not be doing this. It's a clear sign that she does not believe what she says.
And of course, there have been different rules in America for the elites and for everyone else. I believe in New York, if you've gone to a state where there's kind of considered like higher levels of COVID, when you get back, you need to quarantine yourself for 14 days. However, people who are attending the VMAs were exempt from that. So it's interesting that if you are a particular social standing, the rules don't actually apply to you. But that's kind of by the by here. One of the things which this really, really makes me actually, I'm just going to go and say it. Like, this is something which, like, I know a lot of people be saying that I've got this from the academic agent, and it's because, like, I now completely 100% agree with him when it comes to the Democrats. I think that the Democrats are evil. I think that the Democrats are one of the worst, if not the worst, political party in the West right now. And the thing which has really pushed me over the edge with them, like, despite everything, despite the way they've been with Kavanaugh or Russiagate, the impeachments, everything, it's this. Like, now, Biden ad blitz slams rioting, blames president for violence. Now, if you've been watching Seal of Approval since we first started doing the show, like, about 3 months ago, I don't think a single week has really gone by without us talking about the riots.
No.
Like, the very first episode, we were talking with Sophia.
Yeah, on the first episode,
First episode where you'd been filming
on the ground.
Yeah, you were actually on the ground there.
I filmed the police station get burned to the fucking ground. I was there as buildings got lit on fire. Over 70 buildings in Minneapolis burned to the ground and collapsed and completely destroyed.
Yeah. Like,
okay, there's a statement been put out by Nancy Pelosi in the last 30 minutes. Let me read you this, because this is incredible, this statement. Holy shit. Okay, I quote, "I take responsibility for trusting the word of a neighborhood salon I've been to over the years many times.
Oh my
and when
God.
they said we're able to accommodate people, one person at a time, and that we can set that up that time, I trusted that. As it turns out, it was a setup."
What?
That's disgusting. Like, this is how disgusting the Democrats are. They refuse to take any kind of responsibility at all. And what Nancy Pelosi is doing right here, she is someone who holds so much power, she holds so much influence, and she is throwing a small salon under the bus. That's what she's doing.
She went on to say, "I take responsibility for falling for a setup. I think the salon owner owes me an apology for setting me up."
What a disgusting.
Wow.
What an absolutely repugnant. This just says it all. Everyone knows what the facts of this are, but the Democrats, because they have such a gall on them, because they've fallen apart in plain sight, but they will tell everyone that everything is still fine. That they are the ones who really have the pulse on this country, and how they are the ones who are going to be able to solve everything. They are there for the people, but they play by completely different rules. And going back to what I was saying about the protest, like, we've been covering it on here every week. Second episode where we had Blair and Mike on. The picture, the thumbnail for that is a guy holding the Star Spangled Banner, fire in the background. Episode 3, we were talking about Chaz. Omegon's first appearance on here, we were talking about the family that the family who just wanted to grill. Every week we've been talking about. What was that? Oh, sorry. It's like.
Yeah, I'm just saying I just want to grill, goddammit, is what I was saying.
Yeah. But yeah, like, every week we've talked about the riots, and the Democrats have done their best to kind of play things down. They've been using phrases like peaceful protest. We've been seeing the likes of CNN do their dirty work, where they'll be standing in front of a burning building and telling us it's mostly peaceful, despite the furnace going on behind him. They've been doing this for so long. They condemn Trump whenever he wants to send in the National Guard. They virtue signal about how they're not going to, Trump is there to crush all these innocent protesters. We won't let him do it. And now, as soon as it starts impacting their polling figures, as soon as there's no escaping from it, the Democrats are looking bad in the polls. Now, all of a sudden, they are focusing on it, but they're turning it into it's Trump's fault. And that is so insulting to the intelligence of any sentient, free-thinking person. You cannot blame this all on Donald Trump. You can blame this on far left radicals, who the Democrats, who their friends in the establishment media have been effectively allowing to go ahead, doing whatever they want with very little recourse. You know, they have the celebrities who and Biden, people involved in Biden's campaign have been putting money towards letting these people walk free, like get them off bail. Like Scrumpy, you wanted to jump in there. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's if you follow their own logic to its final extension. What Joe Biden is saying here is that Donald Trump's mean words allow his supporters to burn down cities. That's what he's saying. He's saying that Donald Trump's rhetoric is causing his support base to murder people. That is the best he can go. It's I was talking to someone about this last night, but it seems that the Democrat strategy for the election is just no you. Like they've come out and done that with the health stuff. They're trying to claim that like Trump had a stroke or something because he had a routine hospital appointment. They're trying to turn the health concerns around on Trump. They're trying to turn the rioting around. Literally all they have is no you.
Yes.
That's it. They're just saying, no, you caused the violence. No, you've got health problems. It's not going to work. They've been too slow on this, and the narrative has formed too heavily. They really fell into a trap, I think, when they caused Trump to pull back the DHS agents in Portland, because he demonstrated extremely clearly that when he sends in people to help, they will actively remove the federal help from the city. Yes. And when they said we've won, we've pulled, Trump's not involved in our city anymore, we've pushed Trump out of our city, and then the violence continues, it leaves everyone watching no other conclusion that they are responsible for the violence, not Trump.
Yes.
Anyone who has an ounce of sense can see that, and it's insulting. And I think a lot of the US electorate are insulted by it.
Yeah, and this all comes a lot like they're going really hard on this after a Trump supporter is effectively executed in the streets. Like, if you've watched the footage of it, I've seen a few of the people who went hard against Kyle Rittenhouse, saying he didn't, he wasn't firing in self-defense. But they used trying to use the same self-defense argument against the shooter in Portland. They try and use that, but watch the footage, and whenever whether it's paint or mace, I can't quite remember. I keep on hearing conflicting things, so I can't remember exactly which one it is. But it's like it's less than half a second between that being sprayed and the gunshots going off. And so that is not a reaction. Those shots are not a reaction to the spray. That gun is already out, it's already loaded, and it's already aimed. And so I think, based on everything which we see and the kind of things which you hear these people shouting just seconds before the shooting, it really comes across as an execution. But the Democrats aren't talking about that. All of it is blame Trump. All of it is these instigators from out of town, which they say, despite the massive coaches that actually have Black Lives Matter signs on them. I've seen pictures of them. Or the hotels that these people are being flown to and get to stay over in. All of these out-of-town instigators on the side of the left, and then they critique it when it happened, when people on the right who come from out of town are murdered by their fanatics. So, Sophia, you in the America land, I want to know what your thoughts on all of this are.
Like, just the rights in general, or the political angle?
The political angle.
Yeah, how the Democrats have been behaving.
Yes.
Well, terribly. I mean, we've been seeing for so long just the sheer hypocrisy of everything they've been doing. And it's just like, they've become their own worst enemies. And I mean, they've defeated themselves in this election by not condemning the rioters. Like, I think to a degree, at a certain point, they thought when the riots started, they probably thought, oh, we can use this to own Trump.
Yes.
And then the protests didn't stay at just protests.
No.
As I said on the very first episode I was on, the moment that police station burned to the ground, the radical leftists, the Antifa folk, all of them, they saw that we can take these people down. There's a very powerful symbolism in a police station being not just lit on fire. The building is collapsed. It burned to the fucking ground. And there's symbolism in that. And I think what happened was, I think the Democrats thought, oh, these protests, we can make racism a talking point. We can use this police killing, even though George Floyd had his own issues, but they could turn it into this nonstop race issue. I mean, you notice there was that guy in, forget what state, but the white guy got shot. There was no mainstream media coverage of that. They ignored that because police kill white people too. It just doesn't get discussed.
Yeah.
And so what happened was they thought they could turn the race issue into something that would win the election. They thought they could turn it into they could use it
in the no-knock raid.
Hang on, yeah. Let me finish though. They thought they could turn that into this issue of, hey, look, the right is racist. Look, they oppose this. But then the police station burned to the ground. And that was this key moment that changed everything in the US, because the very next night, what did we see? Riots broke out all over the US. We saw crazy riots in Pittsburgh, Chicago, California. They were everywhere. New York, widespread looting, widespread destruction, people just trying to destroy. And it totally turned on the Democrats, but they had to own it. And so they just kept doubling down, shooting themselves in the foot over and over. And now they see how bad it is, but they can't distance themselves from it. And so they're just trying to dig this hole to like make it go away, just nonstop making everything worse. And we're seeing it. They're disorganized. They're frantic. If that makes sense. I'm kind of rambling a bit, but like.
No, that makes sense. And Megan, we haven't
to the worst side of the left, and it bit him in the ass.
Yeah. We haven't heard from you, Megan. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought these protests were adorable. Democrats are fantastic. I love that Pelosi doesn't want debates because Trump is the least presidential president, and I think that's cowardly because we know why, really. We've seen his videos where he clearly can't string more than 4 words together, which is less than Trump. He can string at least 5, okay?
I loved that video. Maybe it might have been yesterday, where he talks about like the hundreds of deaths.
Oh, yeah, and he goes, he just doesn't know what he's talking about. He hasn't got a clue. I got more from him when he was listening to, I think was it Cardi B? And he just sat there in silence.
The thing is, he's clearly reading off like an auto cue as well and failing to do that. With a lot of Trump speeches, he's clearly winging it. He doesn't know what he's going to say in advance. He's just talking off the top of his head, and it's kind of amazing to see sometimes that he's just going so off script. Yet Biden, even with the script, can't. You're right. He can't form 4 words.
And maybe I'm not obviously British. Don't really care too much. It's amusing to watch you guys. We got Boris. It's hilarious. I never thought we'd ever get this. It's great because it's just so fucking funny, right? But when Trump doesn't, even if he doesn't have a script, he can talk shit.
Yes,
he can. And you're not beating him. If you don't debate him, you can't beat him. You've got to destroy him on that debate floor. On policy. On policy. Please. Trump, I'm getting sick of the attacks.
Trump does come out with some amazing things. Like when he's interviewed yesterday, I think there's a clip of it on Fox News where he talks about the way in which the press has been reporting on the riots. And this is what he says. The press should be ashamed of themselves. I think the press is actually, the media is what's fueling this, more so than even Biden, because Biden doesn't know that he's alive.
He doesn't know where he is, doesn't know which race he's in.
Okay, I like that. Right, so there was an interview not long ago where they were talking about COVID stats, and he was sat opposite a guy, and I genuinely thought that was a sketch because of how fucking funny it was. It's just, he can do that. And, okay, people are like, oh, he's not very presidential, it's Trump, blah, 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 and if you support him, you're just deranged. Okay, well, apparently you can't accept him. Okay, I don't support him as president. I think it's just really funny to me. That's all it is. It's just funny because I'm not American.
Do you want me to show some more kind of Democrat dirt? Might as well just call it that. How about this new bill which has been passed in California, SB 145. So this allows registered sex offenders to no longer be considered a sex offender if the offender is 10 years of age of the minor.
The Scott Wiener bill.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so a man that knowingly infected someone else with HIV, the person who he infected with did not know, by the way, brings forward a bill that makes those that are gay men within 10 years get a lesser sentence for being a fucking sex offender. Fuck off, okay? You're a bad person bringing forth a bad idea, and that bad idea got passed.
The worst part is that the media smeared this as a QAnon attack on a gay senator. Calling him, saying he wants men to be able to have sex with young boys, but that's what the legislation says. You're right. He's also the one responsible for decriminalizing knowingly spreading HIV.
Yeah, because he did it. He did it. The prick.
He's a HIV positive gay Jewish Democrat who wants to have sex with young boys and infect them with HIV. He is. You're right when you say evil. These people are evil.
You make it sound like he's a card-carrying member of NAMBLA.
What's frustrating?
Yeah, he basically is.
So, like,
it's ridiculous that this is allowed to happen. This is the state of California politicians. They are genuinely evil people who bring forward legislation that is horrifying. And because they have a supermajority in the state, because the amount of illegals they've packed in there's nothing can be done about it.
Yeah.
What's really frustrating, and Rose will probably...
Sorry, did you have anything to comment on this, Sophia?
Yeah. Rose will probably agree, like, her being trans, me being gay and trans, growing up, the right...
Are you still there, Sophia?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can. I can, yeah.
Yeah, you can?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So, growing up, the right always had the whole... the evangelical right. I'm totally botching that word. I'm fucked up. Anyway, they always said allowing gay marriage is a slippery slope. It'll lead to pedophilia, bestiality, all of it. And in the last couple of years, it's like the left is trying to to prove that slippery slope thing.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because this stuff hurts people like Rose and I. It's going to get equated to gay stuff. When you have that 10-year thing, or to take it in a different direction away from that, even like the child drag queen stuff, which I've written and made a video about.
Oh God, it's nightmarish.
Yeah.
It's like people are trying to bring this pedophilia angle in. I mean, there's a guy who, I forget who he works for, but he's trying to get he's literally an actual doctor who works with pedophiles, verified therapist, PhD, who has tweets saying he wants the P added to LGBT. And so we're seeing all this stuff. It's like they're just trying to prove that slippery slope argument, and that's only going to bite people like me and Rose in the ass the longer this goes. And it's just frustrating. It's just so frustrating.
And I think part of this could be seen why we're seeing more and more kind of LGBT people kind of waking up and #walking away towards the right. A lot of LGBT people, really, it's just about general kind of acceptance in society, as in you want to have the right to, if you're a man, to have a husband, a woman, to have a wife, or if you are trans, to be able to transition and be seen as the gender you strongly identify as. Like that's kind of the base limit for a lot of LGBT people. But what we're seeing from the kind of progressives is this push for further degeneracy. And a lot of this does kind of come from queer theory, which wants to break down any kind of barriers that there are for kind of taboos. Like a lot of it can go, it can get very, very depraved. And that's kind of the point. And so that's what the radical platform for these people now is. I mean, we have the effectively the same rights as anyone else now. Like I keep on hearing about like the struggle for trans rights in the UK, but as a trans woman, there is nothing which I can do Like, there's nothing which I'm not allowed to do that other people can. There is nothing stopping me from achieving things based on my gender identity. And in America now, this is really much becoming the same thing, where there is marriage equality. Like, there isn't, and whilst there are still discrimination kind of practices, that's kind of one thing, but a lot of this is almost on the way out. So they're looking for new kind of causes to start pushing for, and what you end up with is sick fucks like Scott Wiener. Like, the fact that this was, someone thought that this was a sensible bill to write, let alone that it passed. Like, that shows such a moral decay within the Democrats that they are allowed for that to go through. And I think that for a lot of Republicans, they need to pick up on that and just be like, look, this is the kind of shit that the Democrats want. This is what they are pushing. And this isn't being, LGBT phobic or anything like that. A lot of gay people, the vast majority of gay people, are going to be disgusted with such, like, with such legislation being passed through. I mean, when he pushed through the, it's not a criminal offense to infect people with AIDS. Like, the gay press was very supportive of him for doing that, but a lot of gay people weren't happy with that. And like, they're moving more and more away from what is effectively now a normal part of society, and instead we're being represented by degenerates like this. But
pure actual degeneracy of morals. Yes.
It is. This is moral decay. Right now, the Democrats are the party of moral decay because they allow people like Scott Wiener to be their face. They allow people like Scott Wiener to push through the most depraved, kind of new bills. And again, just reading the damn text, SB 145 would allow a sex offender who lures a minor with the intent to commit a felony the ability to escape registering as a sex offender as long as the offender is within 10 years of age of the minor.
That would exempt a 23-year-old trying to lure a 13-year-old.
Yes. It allows them to luring them with the intent of committing a felony. Like, how is that is genuinely repugnant, and the fact that's something which passed, that actually passed.
Yeah, it did. It passed. Baroness Snark in the chat. They said he looks like that Kibblesmith guy. He's the guy who made that what was it, like, New Warriors thing that was a terrible, like, soy fest with like.
Oh. Is that the one with the snowflake and safe space?
Like White Knight and stuff, yeah.
Safe space. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And the kid who likes memes.
They all have
memes.
They all have appalling soy face. That's why they look alike. I'm gonna stop saying soy face and just start saying pedo face.
Yeah.
They have a horrendous case of pedo face.
I think that's fine. One other thing which I want to kind of bring up, if you want to be, if you still don't believe that the Democrats are anti-American, I know this is Ian Miles Chong, but I'm just clicking on him because of the tweets that he's mentioned in here. So the Muriel Bowser, I mean, like, Bowser is an awesome surname, but anyway, this July, I tasked the DC Faces Working Group evaluating public spaces to ensure the namesake's legacy is consistent. I look forward to reviewing and acting and advancing their recommendations. So when you look at the kind of monuments in DC, in the nation's capital, to be removed, relocated, or contextualized, like, look at the names of the people: Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, the Washington Monument. George Washington.
The fucking Washington Monument.
Washington.
They want to change the Washington Monument in fucking Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
It's astounding that this committee has come up with a list of recommendations that basically advises renaming all of D.C.'s famous landmarks away from being named after the founding fathers. It's insanity.
That's it. Like, this is about tearing down the legacy of the founding fathers. Like how un-American is that? Like, you completely get rid of the people who founded your nation because they didn't live up to the morals that we have today. Like, again, they keep on ignoring that these were very, very different periods, and there are reasons why they're remembered. You can still condemn the fact that, yes, some of them did own slaves, like Washington owned slaves. I'm sure Jefferson owned slaves. That you can still condemn that, but you remember them as well for the achievements which they did in the time period that they lived in. And, you know, you would consider America, you know, the guys who founded America, like that to be important enough to be remembered. And I just kind of find I find it baffling that that the Democrats who, you know, we talked about their convention the other week, which was a whole cringe fest, and like how they and like these are people who are also trying to paint themselves as being very pro-American, and this is
consider the stuff they want these days, like limited access on speech, giving more control to corporate entities to control what we say and stuff like that. And the founding fathers and America represents the opposite of that. And so tearing down America, it's about tearing down what America represents so they can build it up as something different. Yes. They don't want this country of liberty anymore. They want one more of authoritarian control.
I think that's exactly right. Because we've known about the histories of the likes of George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson. We've known them for centuries. These are, it's their kind of ideals, which is where America has been built on. And so you remove the history of how America came to be and why it came to be in the first place. You remove the context of the country itself. You reframe it as something which was built upon tyranny when that was never the aim of America. I mean, you know, liberty and all of that. You're right in that when you start to remove that context, you then reshape it into the image that you want. And the image which they want is America was an evil place, but now we've got the party. The party has come in to save everyone from the tyranny. All hail the party. Like it feels almost Orwellian in a way. I know that's an overuse.
I mean, it is Orwellian though.
So does anyone else have anything which they would like to add on whether actually a quick question before we kind of end this segment? Who do you think is more morally bankrupt, the Democrats or the Labour Party?
I would say the Democrats. The Labour Party, for all its failings, does not have the wide-ranging, repugnant tentacles that the Democratic Party does. They have not been as vocal on encouraging the riots, and they have kind of been in a period of self-reflection. I think Labour under Keir Starmer is actually kind of mild and ineffectual. They're trying to be as inoffensive as possible currently. Whilst I think they're both morally bankrupt political parties, I think, honestly, the Labour Party, maybe it's just through virtue of being less of a threat right now, is the less repugnant.
Megan?
Yeah, I tend to agree. Labour are nothing. Although they didn't do so bad in PMQs today, I'll give them that. But otherwise, they're just trying. I think they're in a stage of they're still trying to rebuild. So until we know that they finally sort of got into a stable routine, I guess, and they've dealt with the anti-Semitism, which they have settled. So that's good. And you know, there's no controversy surrounding them. Then they can go on the offensive. Until then, they're just impotent. Really.
And Sophia, as you're American, you probably don't know all that much about the Labour Party.
I would say Democrats, though, just because they stood by as the extreme side of the left-wing contingent literally burned cities to the ground. They stood by and let that happen. And you're not seeing this widespread destruction over there yet. And here, I mean, again, 70 buildings in Minneapolis burned to the ground, collapsed. Hundreds of others damaged, vandalized, looted. And this is just one city. This has happened in other cities, and they stood by. They are letting this country get torn apart. And so, yes, the Democrats are by far worse in this current moment.
So does anyone have anything else they would like to add on how the Democrats are the most evil political party in the Western world?
Democrats be wackio.
I pity them. I pity the Americans that only have two to choose from. especially when they have seen and observed, and it has, to own the big bad Trump. How dare he exist? Kill him. It's really tragic that the only option to go against that is a party that, by definition, will not serve the people, and will instead allow for a bunch of twats to destroy their country, because apparently it's all Trump's fault, which it isn't.
Okay, so with that, I think we need some good news. Scrump, do you have some good news for us this week?
I do have some good news for you this week. I linked it to you earlier. I don't know if you have that up or not.
I do.
It's the Daily Mail one here. They had the most comprehensive one on it. This has been reported widely, though. This isn't some Daily Mail story about salmon curing cancer or anything like that, as they tend to have sometimes. But scientists have they seem to create a drug that can repair brain damage and spinal cords. It seems to be protein based, and it's a potential breakthrough in spinal cord injury victims and Alzheimer's patients. Scientists created a synthetic version of a protein known as cerebellin-1. It links together brain meshing neurons, which can be lost to damage or illness. The compound, called CPTX, repaired movement and memory function in mice. It offers hope of new therapies for a range of devastating conditions. So despite everything seeming to go into shit, medical science hasn't stopped, and we seem to be having breakthroughs for degenerative diseases that we thought were, inconquerable only 5 to 10 years ago. So despite everything that may be falling apart, we still have good medicines coming on tap. You gotta love the what's left of Western academia, I guess, doing actual productive work. I'm sure these people will be doing underwater basket weaving and apologizing for their white guilt in a couple of years. But for now, at least we have some medical research going on.
And so with that, I think now is the time to vote and see who gets the seal of approval for this week. So there's a link in the description for the straw poll. It does have Mike Harlow on it, who it might not have shown up. But hopefully we don't have another week where the person who doesn't show up wins.
Dev won last time through not showing up.
Last week after his third non-appearance.
Apologies to everyone I blackpilled today.
I'm voting Mike Harlow.
I don't think you were. I'm gonna say I don't think you were too blackpilling Sophia, but me and Rose are used to dealing with AA. So
yes,
the true. King of black pills.
Who's AA again? Oh, Amazing Atheist.
No, Academic Asian.
I'm sorry. There's a lot of AAs going around apparently.
We don't talk about Banana Man.
Whilst everyone's voting, I think it's time for the seal of the day. And so the seal of the day is actually it's just basically all seals, because yesterday it was National Seal Day. And so here is.
I would have taken photos of the ones I see on my beach every day, because
you see seals.
Because some of the mothers leave their cubs on the beach and they need a little help to, because that's how they do it. They just fuck off, and they're really cute. They really are.
Are they grey seals or harbour seals?
They go back to the previous picture, please. They look a lot darker than that, but very similar.
So that is a harbour seal. So that's a harbour seal that you would find.
These fuckers, pricks. They're fucking cunts. You already demonetized anyway. They steal my fucking bait when I fish.
but
you're a tosser. You're a wanker. I'm looking at you in the eye. You're a prick.
No, how could you say that?
Do you have any idea how expensive squid bait is?
Yes, but they're seals, and they want
their feeding them. It's not their fault that they're smarter than you.
But it's my fault when the fucker dies with my hook in it.
but they want some tasty squid. You should be honoured. You should be honoured that they are.
I'm triggered, man. I'm triggered. I can't be asked for these pricks. Now, they're cool. They're not so bad. The only thing you have to know is if you're fishing on the beach and you see them, you're not catching fish that day. You're just not going to catch anything.
So I think we'll get a few more votes. Actually, there's no point in getting any more votes. This is
no, there is. Mike
no.
one, you're right.
This is a so it's Scrump. Do a drum roll, please.
Yes.
And it's Sophia.
I won last time too.
Yes,
2-2.
That's the you have the biggest victory of anyone on the history.
Victory.
Really? Oh,
It's not often we get. It's not often we get like a landslide. Normally, it'll be close by 1 or 2 votes, but that's overwhelming.
Sophia landslide.
That's a Sophia landslide.
Feel my wrath.
So I've got a few more super chats to read through. So Reldaz at the $5. I need an elephant-sized white pill suppository from somewhere because I don't see a path for things to get better. Sorry for the downer.
I could make a joke about that.
I mean, I hope that the seals have been a bit of a white pill because there will always be seals. There will always be seals. And George with the £5. A cult ensures control of a recruit by destroying their connections with family. Similarly, the woke cult must destroy a country's monument. That's exactly what communists do. I mean, that's what they did during the Cultural Revolution.
There's a great word that I can't remember who told it to me, but there's a great word called deracination, and it means to remove something from its roots. And that is exactly what the left tries to do. They try to remove a nation from its roots, from its traditions, from its history, from its culture, and from essentially any sense of people that it has. And it's really part of there's all the talk about the moralization with all the Call of Duty stuff and based Soviet defector men. But it really is a case of that they really want to make sure that people aren't in touch with a sense of national identity anymore. And we saw it in Britain with the idea that there's no such thing as British culture or Britishness or even the British ethnicity, or there's no people who are traditionally occupants of the British Isles. Britain is not a nation of immigrants, despite what people say. It's not the US. We have a history, we have a people, and we have an ancestry. We are a nation with its own cultures, traditions, and history, and we shouldn't be ashamed of that, as every other nation should be ashamed of that. But anyway, sorry, go on.
And one more super chat has come in from Hollow1916 with the €5. Anyone following Destiny showing off his power level from these riots? Yes, I have.
Oh my god! I wish you could put the clip up. I've been sending that clip everywhere.
Which one's this?
The one where he said he endorses protesters getting run over.
Oh, so yeah, basically, like Destiny is becoming increasingly red-pilled, thanks to the riots. The one where he did you mean the clip where he's like he doesn't care if like a load of rednecks from out of town come and just mow down?
Are they rioting in his neck of the woods, or is it another reason?
I'm not actually sure. I don't know where he lives. I've just been seeing all of these clips.
It's. I'll send it to you, but it's if I've got it. There it is.
It was when he was having an argument with. It was him who was having an argument with Bosch.
Vosh is a tosser.
Yeah, he talks about. Like, Bosch starts talking about Marvel movies, and then there's that other clip where there's that black woman who's calling him a white piece of shit.
Yeah. The black supremacist woman. Yeah.
Yeah, and then as soon as he kind of turns it around on her, she like flips out on him.
Yeah, like, she goes mental. He basically regurgitates her own words at her, and she gets extremely angry about it.
It's quite special to watch.
I'm not huge on a lot of things he's said in the past, but he is consistent in and being very upfront, and talking to people, which is really different. Because like Rose, you and I would sort of the anti-SJW shit. No one ever spoke to each other for years. It was fucking lame, and it was. But Destiny was always talking to people he disagreed with, which I thought was even the child sex stuff. Even though I disagreed with all that crap, he actually had the discussions. No one else would do it, which is really interesting. He's consistent. He's a prick, but he's consistent.
He's consistently a prick.
He's consistent. That's better, actually. Yes, I agree with that.
So with that, does anyone have anything that they would like to shill before we end the stream?
No, defund the BBC.
Go ahead.
The anti-shill. Sophia?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at Sofnar0747, but I do have a YouTube channel where I upload multiple videos a week and do live streams. But also, if you like my content, my written content on RT, my videos, my field coverage, my riot coverage, whatever, if you want to help me afford some surgeries, I do have a GoFundMe. I have it pinned in my pinned tweet on my Twitter page. Please check it out and maybe help if you can. Thank you.
And Scrumb?
The only thing I can really shill is I'm on Parler. If you're on Parler, I don't use it I use it sporadically. I at least use it a couple of times a week. So if you want some spicy memes, I'm still on Parler. Otherwise, you can join my Discord. I'll send Rose a link that she can put in the description. If you want to join my Discord. In fact, I'll go do that now. But yeah, I don't really have much of a presence online. Go watch Jumper with Scrump if you want to see my regular content show about Otaku. I'm still working on a separate show with a friend of mine, but that's still kind of in the works. We're both busy and back at work now. But yeah, just be chill. Just be excellent to each other.
And as for me, there was a new video out on the channel yesterday, a new episode of Try and Stupid. So if you haven't already checked that out, please watch it. I do have some quite exciting stuff coming up within the next week or so. I know that I am starting to get ill, but I actually have a interview arranged with Dr. Deborah So about her latest book, The End of Gender, which she did send me an advanced copy of it, and it's a fantastic book. So we're going to be talking about that. So that interview, hopefully we'll be filming that in the next few days, provided I don't get more ill. There's going to be a lot more stuff coming as well. Trans Stupid will be back next Tuesday, and Seal of Approval will be back on Wednesday.
Yes.
So there's a mouthful. Anyway, so with that, I want to thank my guests for coming on, Omegon and Sophia. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
And of course, Scrump.
Yes. Hello. That is me. I am the Scrump. Thanks for having me on as always as your co-host.
Thanks for being on the show like you are every week.
Like I always am. Yes. Thank you for the standing state of reality. It's quite swell.
So with that, thank you all for tuning in. There's links to Sophia's and Omegon's channels in the description. Go check them out. Go subscribe to them. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye.
Bye.